Hi, I'm here to see Paul Newman.
Do you have an appointment?
So I emailed him, and on Gmail, the calendar invite's there, but he hasn't...
Shall we look in the book?
If your analog book connects to the iCloud, then sure, it should...
We don't seem to be in the book.
Oh, okay, look, he said yes on Facebook and on Tinder, so he knows I'm coming.
If we had an appointment, we'd be in the book.
Okay, yeah, here's the deal. I just need 2 minutes of his time. I've got a really good idea to help poor people that doesn't involve raising the minimum wage. Now, before I go further... Hi, I'm Andrew Heaton, and you're watching EconPop, the show that rummages through the toy box of popular culture to pull out the slinky of economics from within. We live in a world where there's a finite supply of the stuff we want. Whether it's toys, chainsaws, or scotch, there's only so much to go around. That's why economists rely heavily on the concept of supply and demand to understand how much chainsaws and scotch cost. It's an idea wonderfully illustrated in the film The Hudsucker Proxy. The movie's about a friendly, small-town guy from the middle of nowhere who moves to the big city to seek his fortune. Through folksy charm and a little ingenuity, he triumphs over the odds, wins the day, and of course gets the girl. Norville Barnes, after becoming the president of Hudsucker Industries, invents the hula hoop, which the company mass produces. In a wonderful montage, which we see supply and demand at work in, the price of the toy plummets and then soars. Supply and demand works like this. When the amount of a good is limited and lots of people want it, prices go up. If fewer people want it or there's more of it, prices drop. In the film, before children discover the rapture that is a spinning plastic circle, the price of hula hoops slumps at local stores. There's supply, but little demand. Then, hula hoops become the new craze, bigger than Tamagotchis or Nintendo or other hip toy reference. Now the price escalates. But isn't it greedy to charge all these youngsters higher prices for a circle of plastic? Why not pick a fair price and stick with it? Why do you hate children, businessmen?
The great part is we don't have to charge an arm and a leg.
The good news is that supply and demand isn't just good for setting prices. It also helps producers decide how much of a given product to make. Let's say everybody's crazy about some newfangled product like coffee. If prices go up, more restaurants and upscale gas stations realize it's profitable to sell. As more businesses start dispensing mocha lattes, they'll all be competing with one another for customers, and the prices will drop for us consumers. So we can all stay energetic and jittery. Without supply and demand, there's less coffee. So we'd have to get our energy through exercise and adequate sleep. No thank you. What happens when you try to suspend the law of supply and demand? Let's take housing costs. We all want to help poor people, so what if we dictated the price of renting an apartment instead of letting the market decide? Well, if bureaucrats set the prices of apartments too high, they become prohibitively expensive and no one can afford them. So vampires move in. Clearly a bad idea. If they set the price too low, they become unprofitable for landlords. Well, tough luck landlords, right? Well, if that's the case, there's no longer a financial incentive to build new apartments and you get a housing shortage. Landlords aren't going to spend money repairing houses they're losing money on, so you get slums. And you know what slums bring? Vampires. Supply and demand also applies to the cost of labor. If you're the only welder or carpenter in town, you're going to be in demand and can charge higher prices, which would attract other welders and carpenters, much like seagulls. Conversely, if the town has a glut of bellhops, there will be less demand per elevator and your average bellhop will have a lower salary. A group which nearly always has low wages is people first entering the workforce. At the beginning of the film, Norville is in front of an employment office. He's eager to work and he's a nice guy, but there's a catch. Every entry-level job requires experience. How do you already have experience for an entry-level job? Do you build a time machine? Unskilled workers have the hardest time breaking into the workforce, even the ones who have already mastered quantum physics. Because Norville has no experience, he starts at the bottom of the corporate ladder in the mailroom.
Take this off the secretarial pool on 3! ASAP!
Letter size of green voucher, folder size of yellow voucher, parcel size of maroon voucher.
Hey, kid, this is for Morgatron. Chop, chop.
Wrong color voucher, and they dock you.
Presumably, Norville's entry-level job pays very little. So what if we try to help him and other low-income earners by setting a minimum wage? The idea that everybody should be paid a decent living wage and no less is a good impulse that I fully agree with. But it's a complex issue. Let's say Norville's services in the mailroom generate $2 of profit for the company. If we require the company to pay him $10 per hour, they might just automate his job to save costs, or never hire him in the first place. And not everybody advocating for a higher minimum wage has Norville's best interests at heart. Consider this. Several large corporations actively lobby for an increased minimum wage. Is this because the cigar-smoking, besuited tycoon at the top of their building has gone soft? Hardly. By forcing the price of labor to increase for everyone, rich conglomerates can drive their mom-and-pop chainsaw and scotch distributors out of business.
Competition continues to flag, and we continue to take up the slack.
Several minimum wage laws in the 1920s and 30s were enacted to ensure white people didn't have to compete with other races willing to work for less. And by doing so, they kept non-white people unemployed. A little less than 3% of working Americans earn minimum wage. Now that's not to dismiss these people, but to point out that most minimum wage jobs aren't permanent, they're just entry level. If we raise the minimum wage, people who really need to get a foot in the door of the workforce have a harder time doing so, and they might get locked out. So we should be very careful when we fiddle with supply and demand in regards to labor. Supply and demand is a useful tool for understanding the complexities of the market. And while we can pass laws to try and alter its effects, trying to suspend it is about as effective as using an ordinance to restrict gravity. So until we have moon bases, tinkering with it comes with consequences. And now it's time for YouTube user Eric Pipe's favorite part of the show, Subjective Value, where we bring on a dead economist or philosopher to discuss elements of the film. This week, John Locke.
Why, hello, Andrew. Thank you for having me on your show. Now, please, make yourself comfortable. More comfortable, Andrew, I insist. Now, as you know, Andrew, unused property is a waste and an offense against nature, so let me just turn off these lights we aren't using. There, that's better, isn't it? Now, where was I? Oh yes, unused property is an offense against nature. Unless we're talking about durable goods, like, say, my new Mazda Miata convertible sports car. Durable goods allow men, like us, Andrew, to exchange non-durable goods, like, say, your handsome sports jacket, for goods that would last longer. You and I, for instance, could broker an exchange whereby you trade me your handsome jacket for a ride in my Miata. Are you interested in a trade, Andrew? Yes? Great. Maybe while I drive, you can tell me, what is this lost I keep hearing about? And who is the smoke monster? 4 stars.
Well, that's our show. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're looking for more information on supply and demand and the economics of the Hudsucker Proxy, you can download the EconPop podcast with Paul Cantor, Steve Horwitz, and myself. Available on iTunes.